know that Brendan Donovan is exactly the kind of player that championship teams are built around. He's versatile, able to play all over the infield and outfield. He's a who are always looking for ways to maximize value and get the most bang for their buck. This is the perfect scenario. Also means the Cardinals are motivated to get a deal done quickly before teams pivot to other options. Construction standpoint, Brendan Donovan isn't just a leadoff hitter. He's a Gold Glove caliber defender. Move him around based on matchups and needs. For the Yankees, this versatility is a game changer. Second base in certain situations if Jazz Chisholm needs a day off or is playing another position. And speaking of Jazz, does Jazz get moved? Does he become a trade chip? Does he shift to another position? The answer is simple. Jazz Chisholm isn't going anywhere, and he's not moving off second base. Let's be very clear about this. Jazz Chisholm had a monster season in 2025 after being acquired from the Marlins. He hit 242 with 31 home runs and 31 stolen bases, joining the elite 30-30 club. He posted an 813 OPS and a 125 OPS+. He had a 4.2 WAR. He was an all-star and a silver slugger. He's one of the most dynamic players in baseball, and he's best when he's playing second base, the position he's most comfortable at and where his elite athleticism and instincts shine brightest. Jazz himself said that while he's willing to play third base if the team needs him to, he's better at second and more comfortable there. So, why would the Yankees move him? The answer is they wouldn't. Jazz stays at second base. Brendan Donovan slides in at third base. And suddenly the Yankees have one of the best left sides of the infield in baseball, with Jazz and Donovan forming a dynamic duo that can hit, field, and provide lineup balance. But wait, you're probably thinking, what about Ryan McMahon? The Yankees just traded for him earlier this offseason. Doesn't acquiring Donovan make that move pointless? Not necessarily. Ryan McMahon is a solid player who hit 214 last season with a 693 OPS. He's got power and good defense, but he's also streaky and low on contact. He doesn't have to be a guaranteed starter on this Yankees team. He can be a platoon option, a defensive replacement, a guy who plays first base or second base in certain matchups. The beauty of having versatile players like Donovan and McMahon is that you can mix and match based on the opponent, the situation, and who's hot at any given time. That's how championship teams operate. They don't lock themselves into rigid lineups. They maximize matchups and keep everyone fresh. Now let's talk about what the infield would look like if the Yankees land Brendan Donovan, because this is where things get really exciting. You'd have Ben Rice at first base, a young power hitter with massive upside who showed flashes of brilliance in limited time last season. Jazz Chisholm at second base, an all-star and silver slugger who brings elite speed, power, and defense. Jasson Dominguez at shortstop. Wait, no, scratch that. Oswald Peraza. No, wait, that's not right either. Okay, the shortstop situation is still a question mark, but here's where it gets interesting. What if the Yankees use this trade as an opportunity to move Jasson Dominguez to shortstop full-time? Bear with me here. Dominguez played shortstop during his time with the Yankees last season when injuries forced the team to get creative with their lineup. And you know what? He didn't embarrass himself. He had an 828 OPS, hit 266, showed elite base running ability, and demonstrated that his athleticism and instincts translated to the position. Is he a perfect shortstop? No. But is he better than what the Yankees currently have with Anthony Volpe struggling at the plate? That's a legitimate debate worth having. Imagine this infield. Ben Rice at first, Jazz Chisholm at second, Jasson Dominguez at shortstop, Brendan Donovan at third. That's not just good, that's elite. The defense would be rock solid across the board with the only question mark being shortstop. And even that wouldn't be a glaring weakness if Dominguez can replicate what he did in limited action. The offensive production would be off the charts with multiple guys capable of hitting for power, getting on base and driving in runs. And the versatility would allow Aaron Boone to mix and match based on matchups, giving the Yankees maximum flexibility throughout the season. That's the kind of roster construction that wins championships. Not just raw talent, but smart deployment of that talent in ways that maximize strengths and minimize weaknesses. But let's get back to Brendan Donovan specifically, because there's more to this story that makes him such an attractive target. According to Ken Rosenthal, another highly respected insider, the Cardinals hold Donovan in high regard but are willing to move him because of the timing of their competitive window. Donovan will turn 29 in January and has 2 years before free agency. The Cardinals are rebuilding and won't be competitive during those 2 years, which means they'd rather trade him now while his value is high and get back assets that fit their timeline. For the Yankees, who are in win-now mode and trying to capitalize on Aaron Judge's prime years, those 2 years of control are perfect. You're not committing long-term to a player who might decline in his 30s. You're getting prime years from a proven performer, and if he continues to produce, you can always extend him or re-sign him when he hits free agency. Rosenthal also mentioned that Donovan underwent sports hernia surgery in October after missing most of the final 6 weeks of the 2025 season with a nagging groin injury. That might sound like a red flag, but it's actually good news. Sports hernia surgery has a very high success rate, and players typically return to full health without lingering issues. The fact that Donovan is expected to be ready by spring training means this isn't a long-term concern. It's a minor bump in the road that the Yankees medical staff can evaluate and monitor, but it shouldn't impact his ability to contribute at a high level in 2026. In fact, you could argue that the injury actually works in the Yankees' favor because it might suppress his trade value slightly, allowing them to acquire him for a lower prospect cost than they would have otherwise. Speaking of prospect cost, let's talk about what the Yankees would have to give up to land Brendan Donovan, because that's always the million-dollar question in trade discussions. The good news is that Donovan isn't going to require a king's ransom. The Cardinals are motivated sellers, looking to restock their farm system, but they're not in a position to demand top 5 prospects for a player with 2 years of control who's coming off a solid but not spectacular season. You're probably looking at a package centered around mid-level prospects, maybe a top 15 guy in the Yankees system along with a couple of lottery tickets who have upside but aren't considered untouchable. Names like Clayton Beeter, a hard-throwing right-hander with closer potential, or Chase Hampton, another pitching prospect with plus stuff, maybe Everson Pereira or Jocelyn Dominguez if the Yankees are willing to part with an outfield prospect, though that feels less likely given their depth issues in the outfield. The point is, this wouldn't require the Yankees to gut their farm system or give up their crown jewel prospects like Roderick Arias or George Lombard. It's a deal where both sides can walk away feeling good about the return. The Cardinals get young talent that fits their rebuild timeline. The Yankees get a proven major league contributor who fills multiple needs and doesn't cost them their future. That's the kind of win-win trade that actually gets done, as opposed to the fantasy blockbusters that fans dream up but never materialize because the ask is too high. And here's another factor that can't be ignored. Multiple teams are interested in Brendan Donovan, which means the Yankees can't afford to sit on their hands and wait. The Dodgers, Guardians, and Royals have all been mentioned as potential landing spots, and any one of those teams could swoop in and steal him if the Yankees don't act quickly. This is where Brian Cashman's aggressiveness and willingness to make bold moves comes into play. He's never been shy about pulling the trigger on trades when he identifies a target, and if the Yankees believe Donovan is the right fit, they need to go get him now, before the price goes up or another team beats them to the punch. This offseason is moving fast, with players signing and trades happening almost daily. You snooze, you lose, and the Yankees can't afford to lose out on a player who could be the difference between another playoff exit and a World Series championship. Let's also talk about the bigger picture here, because acquiring Brendan Donovan isn't just about filling one position or solving one problem. It's about creating a roster that's deep, versatile, and built to withstand the grind of a 162-game season plus the playoffs. The Yankees have learned the hard way that you can't rely on a top-heavy roster where you have 3 or 4 superstars and then a bunch of replacement-level players filling out the rest of the lineup. You need quality depth. You need guys who can step up when others are injured or struggling. You need players who can play multiple positions and give you different looks depending on matchups. Brendan Donovan gives you all of that. He's not just a third baseman or a left fielder or a leadoff hitter. He's all of those things, and that flexibility is invaluable over the course of a long season. And let's not forget the postseason implications, because that's ultimately what this is all about. The Yankees aren't trying to win 95 games and lose in the ALDS. They're trying to win a World Series, and that requires having players who can perform under the brightest lights when the pressure is at its highest. Brendan Donovan has played in big games. He's been an all-star. He's performed on the Cardinals, a franchise with a rich winning tradition and high expectations. He's not going to be overwhelmed by playing in New York or by the intensity of October baseball. He's exactly the kind of steady, reliable professional hitter that championship teams need. The guys who aren't going to wow you with highlight reel plays every night, but who consistently do their jobs, get on base, and help the team win games. So where does this leave us? The buzz is real. The interest is legitimate. The fit makes sense from every angle you look at it. Financial, roster construction, timeline, all of it points to this being a deal that should get done. The only question is whether Brian Cashman and the Yankees front office can close the deal and beat out the competition. And if they do, if the Yankees announce that they've acquired Brendan Donovan from the Cardinals, Yankees fans should be absolutely thrilled. This is the kind of under-the-radar move that doesn't generate massive headlines but makes your team significantly better. It's the kind of move that winning organizations make while other teams chase shiny objects and overpay for big names. Imagine this lineup: Brendan Donovan leading off, getting on base and setting the table. Aaron Judge hitting second, the reigning MVP ready to do damage. Cody Bellinger, if the Yankees re-sign him, hitting third and providing left-handed power. Giancarlo Stanton in the cleanup spot, still capable of changing games with one swing. Anthony Rizzo or Ben Rice at first base, depending on the matchup. Jazz Chisholm in the 5-hole, bringing speed and power. That's a lineup that can beat you in multiple ways. That's a lineup with no easy outs. That's a lineup that keeps opposing pitchers up at night, trying to figure out how to navigate it without giving up crooked numbers. The bottom line is this: the Yankees are serious about winning a championship in 2026. They're not content with moral victories or participation trophies. They want to bring a title back to the Bronx, and they're willing to make the moves necessary to get there. Acquiring Brendan Donovan is exactly the kind of smart, aggressive, value-driven move that championship teams make. It fills multiple needs, doesn't mortgage the future, and makes the roster deeper and more versatile. If this trade